We're 32 days away from the pigskin flying at Paycor Stadium in a regular season football matchup, and just 3 days away from it being in the preseason. The Bengals Blitz is back. Chase Younts is here. I'm Chase Younts. What's up, guys? We're back at it again. I'm excited to do more Bengals talk. The Blitz is back. We're coming right at it. If you guys like this video, like the audio, subscribe to us on YouTube. Subscribe to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. There's so many places to get podcasts. And, we appreciate the support that we've gotten over this amount of time. We're not far from football. It's not that far. It's in hands-grabbing reach. Preseason football is not too far, and the regular season is just right around the corner. And I just love talking about our beloved Bengals. First off, before we get on to everything in the show, it has been told that Cam Sample, the Bengals defensive end, has torn his Achilles and will be out for the season. Just wanted to send prayers up for Cam Sample. At this time, this is, a terrible injury, gruesome injury for him to try to deal with, and something that you don't want to see anybody go through at all. And just, prayers up for him and hoping for a fast, speedy, and full recovery for number 96 on the black and orange. So, just heavy hearts for Cam Sample at the moment, and hoping that everything goes well when he has his surgery, whenever that may be. With us, the Cincinnati Bengals, it looks like a big season is in store. There's a lot of buzz around the town. There is a lot of, higher expectations than normal. It's about bounce back. It's about revenge. It's trying to get back to the top of that mountain. When you get to the top of that mountain and then you fall, obviously the urge to get back up to the top and finish the job and plant that flag on top of the NFL Mount Everest is huge. And a team that has done that back-to-back years has been the Kansas City Chiefs, one of the Bengals' biggest rivals in football. And a lot of people would say, oh, maybe the Bengals are the biggest threat to the Kansas City Chiefs in the National Football League. And again, we'll see that matchup between Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes in Week 2 on September the 15th, 425 CBS. But obviously we have the preseason to get through. When there are depth charts released, the Bengals just released their depth chart not long ago, just ahead of the first preseason game. And there were a couple things that caught my attention when it came to who is labeled at what position, the first, second, third string, all that jazz. And the first one I want to look at is the halfback position. And it's labeled as Zach Moss. Zach Moss is the starter. Chase Brown is with the second unit. And again, I don't think in the running back room it has absolutely, I'm not going to say no weight, but it doesn't have as much weight as you would think. There are people out there, especially in fantasy football, that are freaking out that Chase Brown is the second running back on this team. And they're like, oh, Chase Brown needs to be the starter. He's the starter, blah, blah, blah. Well, look, Zach Moss is a veteran in the National Football League. He had over 700 yards rushing last season. He had a very good year in Indianapolis. Look, it's going to be a fire and ice dynamic. Zach Moss, Chase Brown, probably a backfield committee, probably split. But, it's not surprising that if Zach Moss is the week 1 starter when we play the New England Patriots, I don't think it's going to be a surprise to anybody. I know that Chase Brown's going to get his touches. I know Zach Moss is going to get his touches. I think Chase Brown might be more explosive with his touches, but then again, Zach Moss might have more volume. We don't know. Again, it's going to be very interesting to see how these running backs look in this newer rendition of the Bengals offense, which has been taken over by Dan Pitcher, the former quarterbacks coach, under the former offensive coordinator and now head coach at Tennessee Titans, Brian Callahan. So I'm excited to see what the running backs look like in that regard, but I don't think it's anything that, anybody should be concerned about or throwing, any tantrums over. The receiver 3, that's a big one. It was listed on the depth chart that Trenton Irwin has been listed as the third receiver. And Obviously we've heard a lot about Andre Yoshivas, who has been Andre Yoshivas, who has been a big standout at camp. They've moved him around on the outside. They've moved him to the slot. He has been catching a lot of passes in 7-on-7s and 11-on-11s, and he has made big plays throughout the end of July and early August. Charlie Jones, Chuck Sizzle, he has done great things catching the football and getting into space. He's going to probably be the kick returner this year, actually the punt returner this year, for the Cincinnati Bengals. But Chuck has also had a great camp as well. Jermaine Burton has, the third-round pick from Alabama. High hopes for him. We will see how he progresses along. He tweaked his ankle this past week, but everything seems to be good going forward for number 81. But again, it's there's a lot of shuffle going around. Trenton Irwin has been a very reliable receiver for the Cincinnati Bengals. I remember last year when they played the Arizona Cardinals in week 5, he had somewhere like 7 or 8 catches and only had about 50 yards, but they were some huge third down conversions or second and shorter conversions that prolonged drives and was big. Honestly, I expect Trenton Irwin to be the week 1 starter, but that was me talking back in April and May and everything else. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what the coaching staff is seeing or what they're trying to exactly get. Again, it's going to be a collective effort of guys that fill in for a slot that left, like Tyler Boyd. It's not just going to be all Trenton Irwin. It's not going to be all Yoshivas. It's not going to be all Charlie Jones or all Jermaine Burton. At the start, it's going to have to be a collective group of guys. Once Jamar Chase gets back on the field, once T. Higgins is consistently back on the field before week 1, that's going to be big. Those two on the field obviously help each other out and open each other up with more pass catching opportunities. And the third receiver is going to take advantage of those opportunities, whether it's one-on-one or if teams are playing a bit softer coverage on them. That will be big. Tight end position, I listed Drew Sample as the first team tight end and Mike Gesicki as the second team. That wasn't expected. I was a little caught off guard by that, but again, I'm not gonna sit here and overreact to that, because Gesicki, I think, is going to have a massive year in the city of Cincinnati. I think he's going to do really good things for the Bengals. Very talented pass catcher. He once was a tight end that had over 70 receptions when he was in Miami. And I think there's going to be more volume that's going to be thrown around to him, and I'm excited to see what Gesicki has. I think that will change. Drew Sample, very good blocker out of the backfield and up on the line. So that will obviously be monitored going forward. And then rolling over to the defensive side of the ball, cornerback 2, it's been a battle between DJ Turner and Dax Hill, both Michigan guys. DJ Turner at the moment seems to be in the lead. They have him listed as the number 1 corner on the other side of Cam Taylor-Britt. So we'll see if DJ Turner will be able to evolve and take those next steps going. He's been involved in a lot of these plays with receivers that we've seen on social media and all that stuff. But again, it's just social media. So we'll see if DJ Turner is able to step up in these preseason games and make a name for himself. And Dax Hill, making the switch to the outside corner is going to be big for him. I'm excited to see, with Dax being a longer, rangier guy, if he's able to stick with these receivers on the outside the numbers and being on an island, how he's going to handle that. I'm excited to see those two go at it, and it just shows the amount of depth that the Cincinnati Bengals team has at many positions, which ultimately has me really excited. The safeties. We're looking at, Geno Stone and Von Bell as the starters. I don't think Geno Stone being a starter, that's obvious. But then Von Bell coming back. He went to the Panthers for 1 year, comes back to Cincinnati, has been, that leader, the mentor in that regard. So I think him getting more, reps and being in that first team is big. But you also have Jordan Battle, who played a lot at the second part of last season in the second half, and Battle really came into his own. So again, seeing if they're going to throw some 3 safety looks out there, if there's going to be a bit of a rotation between Von Bell and Jordan Battle, if it's going to be a thing where Von Bell is mentoring Jordan Battle, who's in his second season. So it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to construct that, because the Bengals have three very, very talented safeties and obviously have some younger guys and gems that have not scratched the surface yet. But, there's a lot of talent in the secondary that the Bengals can utilize throughout this season and the preseason, and see how looks are, what do they want to look at in this regard. So that's going to be big. And then the punter battle. Brad Robbins is slated as a number one punter. It's his job to lose. I know there's been a lot of talk going forward with Austin McNamara and Ryan Recco. People want to see Brad Robbins make huge improvements on his length in punts. His hang time is there, but his length in punts is big, because I don't think many Bengals fans want to see any more 35-yard punts. So we'll see in that. And then the Bengals bringing in, McNamara and Recco, guys that can get distance. That's a big thing. Distance along with the hang time. That's obviously a big thing in being a punter in the National Football League. So just battles and different stuff in that regard is going to be, interesting to watch as the preseason goes on. We're going to take a short break. When we get back, I'm going to have a conversation with one of my good friends who works down in Florida and covers a bit of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Kaycee Sloan. We'll be right back here in just a moment. All right, we're back here on the Cut to the Chase Bengals Blitz. We're 32 days away from the Bengals home opener against the New England Patriots on September the 8th at 1 o'clock p.m. on CBS. Gonna be exciting. Can't wait to watch. Again, if you guys have watched this far, subscribe to our page, like the video, like the audio. If you're listening on Spotify, if you're listening on, Apple, wherever. Again, there's so many places to watch shows and listen to podcasts and everything else, and we appreciate your support. I had a conversation with Kaycee Sloan. She's the digital content producer down at WFLA, Channel 8 NBC down in Tampa. And we had a discussion about the Bengals' upcoming opponent in the preseason, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Here at Kaycee Sloan, not a visitor of the show, but a friend of the show. She's down there, the digital content producer at WFLA 8 NBC down in Tampa. Kaycee, thanks for coming back on.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Of course. The Bengals play the Bucs this week, all right? And why not talk to Kaycee, who's down there in Tampa? She's covered the Bucs. She's been on the show before talking about the Bucs. So obviously had to bring her back on to talk about what we're looking at with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this year. And with Tampa, they resigned Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans, Antoine Winfield Jr., three huge components of this Bucs roster, a team that's won the NFC South back-to-back years, three-peated that thing. What's their impact, though? It's a very broad question, but what's those three's impact on this Bucs team? They seem like they're kind of the nucleus.
Yeah, they have honestly a huge impact. And I think with the team being able to retain their core, it really didn't change the team that much in the offseason, which is something special, especially in the NFC South. I mean, obviously they lost some veteran players with trades and retirements and things like that, but being able to sign those guys and get those guys back, especially Mike Evans, who's been there his entire career, still putting up crazy numbers, even in his age now, it's insane. I mean, being able to keep him is amazing, especially in Tampa right now, because their sports organizations have seen a lot of their fan favorites go in hockey and baseball. So being able to keep them has been really good. I mean, Antoine Winfield Jr., I loved him last season. I love the way he plays the game. And him being the highest paid DB is crazy. And the fact that they were able to keep him and get that worked out was really nice. And then on the other hand, you have Baker Mayfield, who I feel like it was expected that they were going to keep him. I mean, who else were they going to have be their quarterback after the Brady era? And with Mayfield trying to fight for that starting position with Kyle Trask, it just seemed right. I know Dave Canales, their former offensive coordinator, left and went to the Panthers. And he tried to get Mayfield to come, and he didn't. So that was huge for the Bucs. But I think it'll be a really good season with them. They're all familiar with each other, so they know the gameplay. And they also just re-signed Tristan Wirfs too, which
That was
is
also
another huge deal.
huge deal. I mean, the Bucks throwing money around to everybody
I
and
know.
keeping all the star players. Another thing, like Antoine Winfield, I remember last year we were talking about him and stuff, and I mean, one of the best safeties in the league, if not maybe the best safety in football. I mean, he was voted amongst one of the best amongst his peers and the executives and coaches this offseason. So, I mean, that was a huge get for them. And again, we've always talked about Mike Evans before. The consistency that Mike had over his career is just it's sadly underrated, but he's just 1,000 yards, 10 touchdowns a season, and such a huge get for Mike Evans to come back to Tampa and for the city of Tampa, like you mentioned, with all their stars leaving around the city. But a couple guys departed this year. Devin White went to the Eagles, and Carlton Davis III got traded to Detroit. So they went to some also competitors in the NFC. And then Shaq Barrett unexpectedly retired on top of Ryan Jensen retiring. So there are going to be some big shoes to fill. How are they going to fill them? Do you know at this point, or is it kind of murky at the moment?
I feel like they're doing pretty well, especially with the free agency. I think, I was really surprised that they traded Carlton Davis to the Lions. That one kind of shocked me a little bit, but they got Bryce Hall from the Jets. So I feel like that'll kind of make up for it in that sense. And they also got Jordan Whitehead from the Jets, who played for the Bucs. I mean, he was drafted there. So, I mean, I feel like they're going to be fine on defense, honestly. As for Ryan Jensen, I mean, it sucks to see him go out because it was due to his injury. And Sua Opeta from the Eagles, he signed in the free agency, but he just tore his ACL. So I think they're going to look towards their rookie, Graham Barton from Duke. It was also their first-round draft pick. I think he's going to be their main guy. But, yeah, I don't know. It'll be crazy to see, but I think it'll all work out for them, honestly.
Yeah.
I have more faith in them this season.
Yeah, for sure. And again, mentioning rookies, like you mentioned, with having injuries, it propels another rookie into the fold. Graham Barton, the center from Duke that was picked in the first round this year, and he's going to have to step up and play a pretty big role on a Bucs offensive line that's going to need to protect Baker Mayfield. So that'll be big to see. But I think we also mentioned this a bit last year as well with the Bucs. But why do you think people sleep on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Because again, in the offseason, Kirk Cousins goes to Atlanta. They're the big ticket. There's, they're getting primetime games left and right, huge matchups and everything. And the Panthers are in year 2 of Bryce Young. And, the Saints are just kind of there. But, you got, but again, you got the Bucs, though, that have won the NFC South the last 3 years, but they just really haven't gotten as much respect as they should have. But do you know why that might be the case?
Genuinely, I have no idea why, because it should not be that way. I mean, like you said, the Panthers did absolutely nothing last season. The Saints were there. And I mean, I feel like the Bucs' biggest threat right now is the Falcons because they have Kirk Cousins. But at the same time, that was super surprising because why would you sign an older quarterback coming off of an injury like that? And paying him the money that they're paying him too. Then just to draft a rookie quarterback. I don't know. There's a lot going on there. And I feel like it might be a little bit of a distraction, honestly, for the organization, a little bit. I feel like the Bucs are still going to win the NFC South. I feel like they're the biggest contender, honestly. I mean, I don't know. Maybe because Baker Mayfield hate from how he was in college and jumping around from different teams. Maybe they just have a lot of faith. And I mean, I also get it. You have Tom Brady, who's arguably the greatest quarterback of all time, wins a Super Bowl in his first year in Tampa, and then he leaves and you get Baker Mayfield, who wasn't that optimistic for some people. So I guess I get the hate a little bit, but at the same time, it shouldn't be that way.
Yeah, it really shouldn't. I mean, we've already gone through a year of Baker Mayfield being the Bucs quarterback, won a division championship, won a playoff game and everything else, and gave Detroit a really good game this year. So I don't know. I think that narrative now should just be squished, but then some people just, they don't want to. It's really weird how that plays out and stuff. But It honestly just goes out once you get on the white lines and play the game. I mean, the Bucs have consistently been that team that has stood atop the NFC South over time. But speaking of which, they play Saturday, the first time the Bucs have played a game in nearly 7 or 8 months. So someone or something that you'll be watching from the game Saturday. I know the Bengals. I know you've had some ties with liking the Bengals and all that other stuff. So it's kind of a clash of of two teams in that regard. So how excited, how fun is it going to be to watch the game, and what are you going to be looking out for?
I am genuinely really excited. Me personally, as a fan, I hope they both just have fun. I hope they just have a great time. But thinking about when they played in regular season, when I'm pretty sure Tom Brady was still their quarterback, it was crazy to see because the Bucs were beating them. They were beating the Bengals, and then all of a sudden they come back and Joe Burrow's the superstar that Joe Burrow is. It was crazy to witness that. So now I'm excited to see. I mean, I don't know. I'm assuming Mayfield is most likely going to play. I don't know if Burrow is going to play, but I would like to see how that matchup is because him coming off of his injury, I am really excited to see how both teams mesh.
Yeah, I would say so. And again, it's going to be interesting to see with Baker Mayfield having a new offensive coordinator. And they did say that Burrow will play the first drive of this game. So, so I mean, both teams are going to have new offensive coordinators this year. So it'll be interesting to see both, quarterbacks and how they function in whether it's one or two drives in a new offense. So that'll be fun to watch. And then, I mean, don't know if Antoine Winfield Jr. is going to play or if any of those other big guys are going to play or not. But again, it's the preseason. Anything's it's anybody's game at that point. You could have the second team guys, first team guys were out there. Who knows? It's pretty much anyone's guess at this point. But yeah, what are you saying?
You bring up a good point with the new offensive coordinator Liam Cohen. Because Baker Mayfield said that it's totally different compared to what he's used to with Canales because it's more mental. So I'm excited to see what he means by that. So I'm like, what does that mean? The plays are harder mentally? Like, I am excited to see what he's talking about.
Mental game for Baker Mayfield. It's going to be fun to watch 2 games played at one. Well, 2 games played at once for Baker and a new offense is kind of like Travis Kelce doing 2 things at once. But again, that's another story for another time. And also Joe Burrow having a new offensive coordinator will be big to see what it looks like in that first drive. And that's something I want to roll into. Things that I want to watch for in this game with the Bengals. Obviously, Joe Burrow. I went this far into the show without referencing Joe Burrow. Oh, my goodness. I can give myself a round of applause for that one. If you guys are watching, give yourself a round of applause for myself because I need it. We went that long about talking about Joe Burrow. That's pretty insane. But again, I digress. The things that I want to watch with Joe Burrow on Saturday. The new offense, okay? We're only going to probably see him for a drive. If I had to guess, the drive could be 3 plays. The drive could be 10 plays. I don't know. Just hoping that he gets in there healthy and gets out of there healthy. But the new offense, are they going to vary it up and go under center? Are they going to go in the shotgun? Are they going to go different formations of different tight end packages? Are they going to have – there's just other stuff like that. How does he look in controlling this offense in a game-like atmosphere? I've been to practice once. A lot of people have been to practice over the last couple of weeks. But how does he control it in a real game setting? This newer offense under Dan Pitcher. I'm excited to see it. So that's going to be something to watch out for. What's the packages of Zach Moss and Chase Brown? Obviously, don't expect Jamar Chase to be out there. I don't expect T. Higgins to really be out there at all. But these other receivers, I am excited to see what the packages look like for Joe and just seeing if there's any nuances that are new or if, they kept some of the older stuff, some of the same stuff, and just how are they able to, go about it and keep the wheel going. How does he look? That's the big thing. How does he look? Health is wealth. So, in regards to when he throws, is it looking like a normal Joe Burrow flick of the wrist? Is he shifting off? I think that's the big thing. Right? It's not like a knee injury that he's having to worry about a couple years ago, or anything like that. It's a wrist injury that he's coming off, and he looks like he's been throwing the ball fine at camp and everything else. But I think as all Bengals fans, we just want to see what Joe looks like after the injury, and see how he's going to process and progress going forward. So I think that's just going to be a big thing. Rust. Again, that's been a big thing for Burrow. The first couple games of the last few seasons, if we go back and do a little look in the vault, 2021, Burrow come off the knee injury. He had 260 something yards, 2 touchdowns. The Bengals won against the Vikings. The next week they played the Bears. He threw 3 interceptions in I think like 4 or 5 passes. It was pretty insane. He had a terrible game. The Bengals almost came back and won in the end. 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. The next year in 2022, the Bengals played the Steelers. Burrow coming off the appendectomy. He threw 4 interceptions, lost a fumble, threw 2 touchdowns, and almost won the game in the end. Week 2, he looked rusty in Dallas. The Bengals almost won the game. Last year against the Browns, coming off the calf injury, he threw for like 90 yards. We lost by 3 scores. Did not look good. Then in week 2, re-aggravates the calf. We almost beat the Ravens, but we didn't. So in the first 2 games, it looks as though that Joe hasn't really, been able to do a whole lot. And the common theme with this is the fact that he hasn't played in any of the preseason games. Is that going to be the difference this year? We don't know. But the only way that we're going to see is if he plays in the preseason and he plays in the regular season, something that he hasn't normally done. He played 3 snaps against the Miami Dolphins in the 2021 preseason, and it was a 3 and out. But again, he looked all right once he got in the flow of things against the Minnesota Vikings. So again, that's a big thing. The Bengals getting off to a hot start, Joe Burrow getting off to a hot start, getting some of the rust shaken off. Again, every player has some sort of rust, but if Joe Burrow is able to get any sort of rust off in the preseason, or if he looks sharp in the preseason, regardless of what the circumstances is, if Joe Burrow is able to be on his game by week 1 and be healthy, that is the huge key for Cincinnati. Get any kinks and anything else out of there and work it out in the preseason or on this drive and just kind of get a feel for it. That's just going to be the big thing going forward. I'm excited to see Joe Burrow, a.k.a. Slim Shiesty, whatever you want to call it, Cody Rhodes. I don't know. There's so many jokes with that. Now, switching to the other side of the ball. We're not going to really see a whole lot with it, like mainstay, main-wise stuff in this preseason game. But if the Bucs do play their first team offense, I want to see how the run defense looks. The run defense for the Cincinnati Bengals last year was absolutely atrocious. They were terrible. All right. It was not good. And there have been times in games in the past where the Bengals run defense looked like Swiss cheese, many holes. There were times when the Bengals run defense stepped it up and they just blocked together like a block of cheese, if we want to keep that reference. But there were also times where it was shredded. The cheese references are too much. We're not in Green Bay. We're not cheeseheads. But the thing is with the Bengals run defenses, we're losing on the line of scrimmage. Games are won at the line of scrimmage. If you win the line of scrimmage, the chances of winning the football game go up so much. They go up dramatically. So the Bengals signed Sheldon Rankins. BJ Hill's still there. That's a big person that no one's really talking about other than him dyeing his hair, just like Joe Burrow in that regard. I digress. And then Zach Carter and Jay Tufele, those guys are the number 2 on the depth chart at the moment. So the run defense is going to be huge. The big guys up front, those guys are going to be big, and the linebackers on the back end. Jermaine Pratt, Logan Wilson, if they do get to play a series, how are they going to come out firing in this first preseason game? Are they going to have some rust? Are they going to be fine? What's it going to look like? And again, with these other linebackers that may have to step up at other times, Akeem Davis-Gaither and Joe Bacci, how do they look as well? That's going to be a big question that I will be looking at throughout this game. Can the run defense stop the run? That's just going to be huge for Cincinnati this year. If the Bengals are a decent run-stopping team, they can be a really good defense. If they are nearly a shutdown run defense, man, this defense is going to be spectacular. So I'm hoping to see the run defense have improvement. That's the big thing going forward. And it starts in this preseason game to see if guys are able to, pin their ears back and try to get after it and board up the run game. See if they can stop. If it is Rachaad White in this game, we don't know. But again, stop the running back is all I have to say. Get in that mode that you are not letting them get pushed off the line and win the line of scrimmage. The third thing is the rookies. That's obviously the big thing that we want to see. It's the first time that these guys are going to be wearing their stripes in preseason games. Amarius Mims. Man, that guy. So when I was at practice, I'm 6'4", 225, 230. I'm there standing at practice, probably one of the taller guys that's behind the ropes watching with the rest of my fellow Bengals fans. Amarius Mims made me feel like I was 5'8". I finally could ask somebody, how's the weather up there? Or if someone wanted to ask me, how's the weather down there? It would be that guy. And Orlando Brown and Trent Brown, all those guys. But Amarius Mims is a big dude. All right. He's gotten first team reps with, during training camp and all. So I'm excited to see what happens with that. If it's going to be him out there, if it's going to be Trent Brown out there, we'll see. But Amarius Mims on an island. How is he going to go against some of these pass rushers in this first game? Is he going to hold his own? What's it going to look like in the run game? Are they going to have him out leading the charge? Is it going to be on a pull? What's the schematics going to look like and how they're going to use Amarius Mims in this regard? I'm excited to see what Big 71 can do, because when you wear that number, you got a lot of pride to look for. Big Willie Anderson's the guy I was talking about. And by the way, he should be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. That's ridiculous that he's not in Canton right now. But Amarius Mims, I'm excited to see what he can do and how he's going to look in preseason game 1. Chris Jenkins, interior defensive lineman, Michigan. He's a guy we drafted in the second round, that the run stopper. Make the impact in this game. It doesn't have to be immediate, but I would love to be immediate, Make the Bengals coaching staff move you ahead of Zach Carter or Jay Tufele by the next preseason game. Chris Jenkins, if he is able to blossom a little earlier than we expected, he's going to have a big role for the Bengals this season. Jermaine Burton, I'm excited to see, Jake Browning throwing to him, maybe Joe Burrow throwing him the first drive. We don't know. But again, if it's Jake Browning throwing him or whatever, Browning has played in games last season. He's played in big games. But seeing Burton on the outside, seeing that they move Burton in the slot, how are they going to utilize Burton? Deep, over the middle, in the slot, in the flat. They're going to run the whole route tree with him. I'm excited to see what they do with Jermaine Burton, and I want to see some of its explosiveness. Eric All, health, coming off the torn ACL. How's he going to look when he is running a seam route over the middle? How is he going to look when he's running a post? How is he going to look when he's sitting down in the zone of a defense and catching the football? How is he going to look when he's motioning across the formation and trying to kick out a block to spring Chase Brown or to spring an Elijah Collins, shout out, trying to spring a guy open to get through a hole, or Travion Williams or a Chris Evans? How's it going to look? I just want to see if Eric All is moving all right in a game. That's going to be big. I'm excited to see Eric All. Josh Newton, the corner from TCU. He's gotten some run with the ones and a lot of run with the twos. Watch out for Josh Newton, because I think this guy is a sneaky talent that could find himself on the field with the ones if needed. Watch out for Josh Newton. I'm excited. I hope. And I want to see what Josh Newton can do on the outside against Tampa Bay Buccaneers. There's other draft picks on the back end that obviously they're going to be watched and everything else, but those were the first five picks that came to mind. And then McKinley Jackson as well, the other third round selection that we had. I'm excited to see if he's able to board up in the middle. That's going to be big. But again, those 5 rookies, I'm going to keep my eyes on them. I'm excited to watch the Bengals play football again in the month of August. We've got 3 preseason games, then about a week off or so, and then we're watching them play in that game against the New England Patriots on September the 8th. We're getting there. We're getting close. Monitoring how early things have gone in practice. The Bengals do have 2 joint practices following the Bucs game and everything else. They joint practice with the Bears a couple days before their second preseason game, which is a Saturday on August 17th at 1 p.m., and then they'll have a joint practice a couple of days before their game with the Colts on Thursday, August 22nd, 8 p.m. on Amazon Prime. I'm excited. Bengals football's back. It may be this dress rehearsal of preseason games, but again, the Bengals are back. So let's enjoy it. Again, if you watch this far, like the video, subscribe to us on YouTube. If you like the audio, give us a 5-star rating, subscribe to our channel and everything else. We appreciate all of the support. With that being said, I'm Chase Younts. We'll see you guys next time on the Cut to the Chase Bengals Blitz, and everybody have a